Me and the panel here have been scratching our heads trying to find out the date when Uganda actually last lost a competitive game. Now, we are still trying to find out the specific month, guys, but that was against Egypt, a World Cup qualifier. And since then, we've been winning games left, right, and center. Most of those keeping clean sheets. That's how comfortable the Uganda Cranes have been when it comes down to competitive action. And because of that, the Ugandan football fans have had their expectations shoot through the roof these days. When you lose a Cranes game, you're in trouble, my friend. How do you get the Uganda Cranes with the Ugandan Cranes and you lose a game? We don't lose a game as the Uganda Cranes. We're at the Africa Cup of Nations. We're going to make a return. We're keeping all clean sheets in all matches and scoring as many goals as we can. And then we went to Tanzania. We had already qualified, but we wanted some icing on the cake. I know if we had won, our neighbors wouldn't make it to the Africa Cup of Nations, then maybe the East African Federation integration and everything would have a problem. But we needed the results. We lost against the Taifa Stars of Tanzania comprehensively. Andrew Mwangusha, you don't seem a happy man, are you?
I am a happy man.
Why are you happy? You're happy because Uganda lost?
No, I'm happy actually that we went into this game without any pressures. And any result would have sufficed. I'm not one of those who is looking to this defeat, you know, like it's a catastrophe. Of course, questions will be raised in terms of team selections and all. But in short, I'd love to keep the game in sporting terms. I think Tanzania wanted this game more than us, and it showed from onset. And they literally were a team on a mission. And even if Uganda had put in a stronger side, yes, it wouldn't have perhaps have been 3-0, but it could have been edgy, and I think they had that little more hunger for the game. Also, the fact that the fourth East African country qualified. I'll be honest with you, the fact that Uganda had nothing to lose in this game, I'm happy with Tanzania qualifying, but I'm not one who says we should have given it to them. You just play and the best team wins, and then it's a win-win for the region.
What do you mean we could have gone with a stronger team? Are you trying to say Sebastian Desabre did not put the best team at his disposal out in Dar es Salaam?
Definitely, he didn't put the best team at his disposal, but you also have to wonder what he wanted. One of the reasons is he wanted to give, you know, new players a run, and he changed. There were 4 changes from the team that drew 0-0 in Kampala. We had Alan Chambade start, actually playing 90 minutes. We had Chrysostom Untambi, who was now the shock of the lineup, and that's where most of the animation from the fans come through, because this is a midfielder who appeared in defense. And then we also had Awanyi. Timothy Awanyi, first start, very happy that he actually finally got it, because he's been knocking on the door. And then we had Tadeo Lwanga start, because you had Dennis Iguma out injured, Hassan Waswa suspended, and then Desabre rested Murisid Juko and Khalid Awucho. The reason being, they were a card away from missing the opening match of AFCON finals.
Absolutely.
So that's why he didn't, you know, take that risk. So you could argue things like Ntambi. You could question the heart, the spirit of the Cranes players going for it. But naturally, when you have something in the bag, when you are punched somehow, it's natural to let it go. But I'll be honest with you. There's been talk of you know, fixed games and all. I do not believe in such until there's proof. Of course, allegations can happen, but no one has a right to come out with finality that this happened before any investigations are done.
I think we shall talk about match-fixing reports that are making their way online. I don't think they hold any water, but also don't want to deny any of those. But let me quickly come to Madoi. Uganda Cranes fans are interesting. Ugandan football fans, or football fans all over the world generally, are quite interesting. Throughout the campaign, when we were doing fantastic and keeping clean sheets and scoring goals, I had a few journalists online who are screaming, why don't we give some other players a chance? Alan Okello, you can talk about Rwanga himself, Timothy Awanyi. We talked about all these lads. Sebastian Desabre realizes we've already qualified, goes to Tanzania, makes changes, we lose, and now we are hitting Sebastian Desabre. We probably should be fair with the guy.
Yeah, maybe in that respect, you can't say that there is an element of truth, but I would like to vehemently disagree with the narrative that my fellow panelist Andrew Mwangusha has put out. I think the problem with us Uganda is that we haven't engendered what you can call a winning culture. Because if you say that it's fantastic, or it's no problem to lose a match as long as you've qualified, I think for me that's a small team mentality. I think the Uganda Cranes should develop this mentality where they go into each game with the sole purpose of winning, and it does not matter which player is wearing that jersey, as you've quite rightly put it. This should be a culture that is coursing through the veins of every player. Looking at that match, it was, first of all, very painful to watch the match. The players, their hearts did not seem to be in the match. You could see that their passes, they did not have any patches on them. You could see the fullbacks did not have, this vigor and urge to run. Again, you question, that's where Seb Desabre is going to be questioned. Because actually going into this match, many people had put a big question mark on the left back, Godfrey Walusimbi, who is unattached. And clearly this match showed that he was either a yard short on pace, and he wasn't the Jajawal whom we know. He was out of sorts, and you could see that his lack of competitive football is working to his detriment. And there are so many options that Desabre could have, if you're talking of him biting the bullet, as you've quite rightly put it, and trying out other players. I would ask why, for instance, don't you try out Brian Majorga, who has covered himself in glory playing as a left back for Maroons in the league, yeah? Or why don't you go and try out Shafiq Batambuze, who is done quite well with Gor Mahia, if you're trying out other players. So there are so many mixed signals that came out from all of this, and I think if Seb Desabre is being lampooned, people deserve to lampoon him. They deserve to criticize him. He's been so indecisive. His approach to this game, there's a lot of indecisiveness.
We're going to talk about the starting 11 and who we think should have started or who we think should never have started. But Mark, let's give credit to Tanzania. And we're really being unfair. We're looking at the Taifa Stars side that not only kept within touch, giving themselves a chance until the final qualification day, but came to Kampala and actually picked a point. When I was with you working in Tanzania, Simon Musuva was a youngster. He's coming of age now. Should we give them some credit?
Absolutely. I'd like to flip that coin and give Tanzania some credit, because perhaps many Uganda football fans did not put into perspective how strong the team we're going to play against was. This is a team with a league which is arguably more vibrant than ours, and I've covered it with you. And they've done well. You look at that national team, and all the way from the Erasto Nyonis at the back to John Boko and Bwana Samata up front. You're talking guys who are playing, what, 7-8 years now for the national team? Actually, Agri Morris, no, actually, yeah. Bwana Samata perhaps is even newer than some of them. But he and Boko had spoken here last Monday about that partnership, and me worrying. Not worrying, but saying, with conviction actually, that we were not going to keep a clean sheet, if you remember.
Yes.
Even my prediction said so, but I said it on air that I didn't think we were going to keep it. I even thought that Dennis should be left out of this game on Yango, just so he could preserve that if we were going to make chop and change. The goalkeeping is where I would start, actually, because and then leave Dennis out there. Because I didn't like the sight of him picking the ball out of the net 3 times. It just wasn't it. I hope that we can always remember that we qualified without him conceding one. I'd rather keep it that way. But yes, to give them some credit, first of all, they packed that stadium and they support their team. Yeah. And they did this again. And they do that even for league matches in a way that we no longer do, or in a way we are trying to achieve again. They, and like I talked, there's some experience running through the team, as well as our competitiveness. And then, personally, yeah, I'll agree with Robert when he says we should have a winning mentality. But then I'll tell you as well that it is not supporting mediocrity. It is not lowering the bar for you to actually cut a team some slack if they've already qualified. Yeah. Because we can't go beating up on these guys as if they've disgraced Uganda so much all of a sudden. I like that we are ambitious enough for everybody to be up in arms. But hey, step back and say, you know what? The teams have lost and qualified. teams qualified with the last kick of the game in these campaigns. There are teams like Zambia, which finished last in the group. There are teams out there that have got a bigger reputation in international football than us. We're not doing as well as we're doing now. I'd actually be more mad with things that happen at the finals in Egypt than I would be with that game in Tanzania, in all honesty. And that is not that I'm not being ambitious or lowering the bar. In any
just
sense.
feel we had done enough.
I'm just thinking that the Tanzanians are good enough. I didn't think we played well. I'll say that. We played a poor game. And yeah, it was tough to watch, I agree. But I am not going to be beating up on that team as if all hell has broken loose. It is in Egypt that I'd like for them to pick themselves up and show some ambition and perform a lot better than just one goal and no points.
I'll come back to that.
The last finals.
There's so many allegations going around. I wanted to first take this one out of the way because I think it's quite criminal in world football now to be found in a match-fixing scandal. And because of this, because Tanzania needed a win and Uganda lost after doing so well in the campaign, there's been so many guys on social media making noise about some match-fixing here. And I think everyone is as disappointed as the fans. I mean, I'm seeing a statement here from the FUFA president, Engineer Moses Magogo, which he put on his Facebook. It's quite long, so I'll just read a few parts. He says, "This is the worst result of the Uganda Cranes in my administration. No one can feel more disappointed than me. As an administration, we provided everything the technical team and players wanted. We therefore ought to understand the following facts." I'll just read to one. It says, "All allowances and outstanding bonuses were fully paid before the match. The coach asked for a camp in Egypt. We provided." He actually goes on to say, bonuses of $2,500 USD per player for the win and 1,500 USD for a draw were announced before the match in Tanzania. It's a long story, but he concluded by saying, "I want to listen to any explanation why it is not the coach and the team responsible for this dismal performance, but the FUFA president and or the administration." And he's saying this, Mwangusha, because the fans seem to have been attacking him and saying, maybe something wasn't right in whatever happened. It's really unfair to treat the man like that in a game where Uganda had already qualified. Or am I wrong?
I think the mistake Mr. Moses Magogo made was to be online after the match because everything was coming at him and he felt the need to respond. Now, that response betrayed the supposed intelligence of Mr. Moses Magogo and leadership because you do not throw your team, your coach, your players in the sun to dry because of social media, pressure on you and claiming you fixed a game here and there. Now, if you read that statement to the end and put yourself in the shoes of the players and the coaching staff. So literally, this is your federation president telling you, hey guys, clean your mess. We as FUFA did our part. You need to explain now. That's a kind of letter or a kind of, message he should have given to the team after they've come back or if he's with them when they meet. And then you out that just hours after the match before listening from your team, from the coaches. So literally, he's being accountable to us before even listening in to the coaching staff. And you're just calling them out to explain their mess. I thought that lacked class, lacked leadership, and somewhere where he is quiet, perhaps he's thinking he could have done better. That's Mr. Moses Magogo. I'm being honest. See, I'm not questioning. I'm not questioning what he said.
Absolutely.
I'm saying he could have done it.
He could have done better.
Differently.
Could have done better. That's what I mean.
I don't think it was a knee-jerk reaction in my assessment. I think he actually looked like a CEO, a chief executive doing that because that's what they do. I've given you
not federation presidents. Actually, it should have been officially communicated by FUFA. Not the president. Every communication from FUFA comes through a CEO, or they have official communication channels.
Yes.
So this one was a knee-jerk reaction, and for me, it lacked class, it lacked leadership, it exposed him.
No. I don't think I do not defend Moses Magogo that much, but I should say he's provided. He's given you the tools. He expects you to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, he's put in the money. He's staked bonuses for you. So it's incumbent upon you to deliver, and if you do not deliver, he has to ask those tough questions. I thought, you know, he had his heart in the right place by saying, him saying that he should have cooled off. It's very dangerous. If you talk to public relations gurus like Mark Sally, they will tell you, that the number one danger is for you to create an information vacuum. Because if you create that information vacuum, people are going to come and they are going to fill it with all sorts of mistruths.
Mark, I want us to talk about the players. I want us to talk football, but let's just get this out of the way. According to Mwangusha, Engineer Moses Maogo put the players and the technical team out there to dry?
He actually has. Yeah, in a sense he has. Yeah, if he says that why are we asking him and not them? I understand. But I agree with Robert about not leaving information gaps and all. But again, I agree because this, I find points in both the arguments. I agree with Andrew that Andrew says he should have waited. He didn't have to wait, but he could have done it differently. Ultimately, though, is what you've got to understand, regardless. And you're talking leadership. The leaders are supposed to be exemplary. They're supposed to be calmer than everybody else, but they're also human. And Moses Magogo felt the need to put this out because, and I've seen these posts because I'm not on Facebook. I'm believing some of them were actually.
You're not on Facebook?
No, I'm not.
Why?
They were attacking him directly.
Are you on Instagram?
But you have a page.
I'm on Twitter.
Mark.
I'm on Twitter.
Okay.
Mark.
Yeah,
And on Twitter, I also communicate. I communicate mostly
Yeah.
UNRWA stuff.
Oh, okay. On Twitter.
Mark, let me
some football, nothing personal.
Let me
Okay.
inform
I
you
don't
that
do
you have
stuff.
a page on
No.
Facebook where you are being asked to stand for FIFA presidency.
Yeah, it's not mine. I don't know who. Yes, somebody impersonates me and all, and I'll sue them one day soon. But anyway, I'll tell you I'm not there. But anyway, what I'm saying is that he's only human, and I'm assuming that some of the accusations went straight at him, which is why you would say that why is he the one being questioned in the administration? Because ideally, if there was going to be match fixing at that kind of level, you'd think that well, if it was just going to be match fixing, the way match fixing is done across the globe right these days is that you don't need a federation president. All you need is a goalkeeper and defenders, and people are trying to do them in different leagues across the country, across the world, everywhere, because it's a huge mafia. So there's no running away from that. But if you're going to, if it's a diplomatic move, and I'm saying diplomatic move, where one country is going to ask another for a favor, it can't be the coach and the players.
Yeah.
It's him they'll have to go to. So if some allegations are saying that, perhaps that's what he's defending himself against. But I'll say this again. I'll go back to this: is that conspiracy sells? Is that controversy is what we love, and that social media has actually promoted this a lot more than anything else in the past. So there's a rush to judgment, there's a rush to conclusion, which should not be done. And I always argue against this as far as social media is concerned on so many different things, including at my place of work, where people run away with without even seeking information first about things like, like the bridge or broken culvert or stuff like that. And it makes me wonder. But we've got to understand that this happens in there. Ultimately, sporting people are supposed to think sport first. Losing a football game, we are Uganda. We are now a proud nation that goes to Nations Cups every time they are staged. But we are still Uganda, and we can lose a football game because so can France, the world champions. Now, in sporting terms, we can't be outplayed by another country.
Yeah,
which
I don't see why.
We were, especially if they come into the game, like Andrew was saying earlier, wanting it more than us, which showed on the pitch. So you start there. By the way, where I'd feel for Moses and the team is that we're not exactly in a position to be doing countries favors because they haven't done us these favors. The Kenyans held us at Nambole the other day when all we needed was to win that game and qualify. They had nothing to play for. This Tanzania itself
had something to play
in 1991 when we were trying to reach Senegal 92. That is one of the campaigns that has pained me the most because that's one of the strongest Uganda Cranes teams I've ever seen personally. The team that had beaten what was still called Zaire then in Nachivo 2-1, one of the best Cranes games I've ever watched. It's actually ranked second for me after Uganda Cameroon in 1988, as 1987 as in international matches. That game, showcase the strength we had in the Stephen Bogereza and Majid Moses and the Jackson Mayanjas. And that campaign was going so well until football politics then played its part. You remember?
Absolutely.
Paul Hasule gets banned, Villa players boycott the national team. We need 1 point from the last 2 games, and we can't win in Congo, and in Tanzania we get beaten.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure Moses and all these people know this. So we've not been done any favors by our neighbors.
So we have no reason
in
to
qualifying.
do
Yeah, so I don't think we were going out there to do them any favors.
We have so much reaction on social media
So
at the moment.
personally, I don't want even to run into that before actually taking a step back and analyzing.
Okay.
I think there's too much rush to judgment.
We have so much
Yeah.
reaction coming up so far on social media. We should be going through that and see what your reaction is. Plus, we are really asking, I mean, who would you have started in the starting 11? We're going to come back and discuss the Chrysostom Ntambi issue and the other starting slots, because a couple of folks have thought maybe the Sabre could have played a different side, though Mark clearly says, I mean, it's football, guys. You can lose a football game,
Oh, yes.
actually, especially if you're the Uganda Cranes. Joel Kamadi is standing by.
Well, I'll tell you what's positive about this is that very many people have come out to comment about this subject, and that clearly shows that people are really interested and actually do care so much about the national team. I'll start with Sydney Ruwaje, who says, this is simply brotherhood. It's not what Kenya did to us at Nambole some time back. I'm sure Uganda Cranes wouldn't want to be a scapegoat to the Taifa Stars failure to go to AFCON after almost 40 years. Kansime Green says, game is game. It is unfortunate that we badly lost the match, but on the side, it's good for the team to go through humiliation time so that the house could be put in order. In soccer, none is indomitable like in politics. Good luck, Cranes. Ashaba Derek, this was a giveaway game. No more, no less. Sam Daka says, watching the Uganda Cranes play without passion was so heartbreaking, given the fact that we all know what the team is capable of. Nevertheless, congratulations to the Taifa Stars. E. Paul says, congratulations to the Taifa Stars, but I wasn't impressed at all with our performance. There seemed to be something that was done before the game. Komagum says, those players each bagged a plot of land in Dodoma, and they're going to have a house built for them. Who wouldn't die for that? Tanzania were the better team, and Uganda was the pathetic side, period. Pario says, can't blame the Cranes for that loss. It was only natural and self-motivation that Taifa Stars win the match, as they'd been promised $15,000 each if they qualified for Africa Cup of Nations. Cranes had already qualified, therefore no motivation, as you saw yesterday. Kasule Patrick, good and bad. Good that Ugandans no longer accept mediocrity and certain players were exposed, and bad that the humiliation was too much and the performance was unacceptable. Sam Daka says, it was such a shame that we stooped so low after a very good campaign. What was that the high the team promised us prior to the match? I expected a good and competitive game. Congratulations to the Taifa Stars, though. Muwanga Morris says, guys, sincerely speaking, Coach De Sabre has not made any visible positive impact on the Uganda Cranes. I doubt that he is going to make any, even when we give him more time. We have a clear style of play and have failed to get the player that creates more for the strikers. Murunji K. Ronald, worst performance, and think body language of the players was telling a lot that something was clearly wrong. Maybe two more. Kalanzi Sam, we lost because we did all the wrong things tactically and in the final third. The worry is this is not a one-off. We have scored a single goal in our last 3 outings in continental tournaments in group stages. The reason is we were not brave enough to commit bodies forward. Mayanja Remigius says, surely the TZ Eugene match was the worst Cranes game since I started watching soccer. These guys ultimately boasters in all departments. Andrew Paya says, I think the Cranes could have done much better anyway, just in case we get some money from our neighbors, or we got some money from our neighbors. This is what he says. Let's just put the money to good use, like helping cattle farmers in Nakasongole. At least Tanzania didn't close their border. There we go.
Man. I think some Uganda Cranes fans are just alarmists, to be honest. You cannot say that you're disappointed we stooped to this low. What does that even mean? Against Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, guys, I mean, I understand your reaction, but the big question we're asking you this evening, though, is if you look at that starting 11, and I'll come to Mangusha shortly, the starting 11, who do you think should have started? I mean, if you were Sebastian Desabre for a day in Dar es Salaam, who actually would you have started in Uganda's starting 11? But before we go into that team and talk about the different players, Mangusha, you had a quick rejoinder.
Oh, yes.
On the
About the FIFA president's statement, I'll be honest with you. I agree. He's human, and he shouldn't have waited for the message. But see, he could have done it better. How? By clearly stating, "Hey guys, we need to calm down. We just lost a game, but we wait to sit with the team, and then we'll see the way forward." Simple as that.
But Mangusha, have you talked to any players? Where are you getting this anger from? You seem to think the players were thrown out.
I actually, with the Daily Monitor, we have spoken to some players and some coaches with the Cranes at Dar es Salaam Airport and road to Addis and back. The players, of course, they're all on social media, so they saw it, and they were utterly disappointed. Tomorrow's Daily Monitor, we have that story where we have about 3 players, the coach. Of course, we can't name them for obvious reasons. We still want them to continue playing for the national team.
And giving you stories.
Yes, and their reaction was, really? We thought we'd lose together and win together. We thought the president was with us. He can't be doing this. Even before, one of the coaches said, even before speaking to us, we thought
that's
this.
the one that surprises me. I didn't know that he had not spoken with them. I'd expect that
Exactly.
in the aftermath of the match, of course.
So perhaps maybe calls went over the day, but this was in the morning. That's when we got
let's talk
this
the
news.
football itself. I'm sure Engineer Moses Maogo is going to put this right if the players are this disappointed.
The other thing, by the way, about Moses, and you know these days, because the thing is that I'm doing leadership classes. I'm being taught, we're taught by the best of them. University management is going through leadership classes with Madam Alan Kajina is teaching us. Now, the thing is, I've come to realize that different leaders, of course, have different styles. And I don't think Magogo has held back before. So this is
he's good with releasing information.
Yeah, he has not held back before, even with a strong opinion. I think he's put out strong opinion on several different topics throughout his tenure. And he actually even now has his own radio show and things like that. Where I think he speaks his mind.
Mark, here's my only problem.
So I don't think this was out of character, really.
It's not.
So
Mark, here's my only problem with football fans.
He does that.
My problem with football fans is when you're a sports journalist or like a TV presenter or radio presenter or a football administrator, the other football fans think when you take over those roles, then you stop becoming a fan yourself. Maybe you get emotional sometimes and maybe jump the gun. That time we were on air and I think I said something about Man United and someone on Twitter went all out on me. You know, you should be professional when you're presenting. Please be neutral. Guys, doing press box does not mean I'm less of a Manchester United fan. Like, come on, this is why I do this at the end of the day. But let's talk about the starting 11. Chrysostom Ntambi has come up so many times, and I was discussing this with you even before the show. From nowhere, he started in Tanzania. And because of that, some guys think maybe we could have done better in defense when we know that wasn't even his original position. Do we start from there? Do we think that's why the Sabre could have organized this side from?
Surprise pick, yes. In many respects, he was a surprise pick. And for me, he's the very embodiment of the modern day Ugandan player. You asked me how. Most of them have been destroyed by this thing called versatility, where they tend to master playing almost all positions, and they end up being a master at none. Chrysostom Ntambi, when you look at him, by the very few people know Chrysostom Ntambi, but he announced his arrival, I think, in Villa Colours. But before that, he was playing for Jogoyang, which was a feeder club of Sports Club Villa. And actually, he started out as a centre half. He's a tall, lanky guy, and I think that build maybe predisposed him to that position. But one of his coaches, when he was playing for Jogoyang, that was Ibrahim Kiria, saw in him, boundless energy, and he thought, this energy can be put to use if we deploy him in midfield. So he ended up playing in midfield for AC Villa, and I thought, he earned his stripes as a midfielder. I actually remember a game against KCCA when he scored, I think it was a rasping shot. Villa ended up, I think, winning that game 3-2. He also played for your beloved club at one point.
He's a very talented player.
Yes, he's a talented player.
And also very intelligent.
But what has destroyed him is that versatility and the fact that he's also a journeyman.
Has it destroyed him or
I think
worked against him? It's a very strong word when you say destroyed.
Yes, okay, destroyed.
The career is still on.
Sorry about that. What has worked against him is that he's versatile, And if you look at players, you look at, for instance, Mike Azira, and most of them seem to have come from actually AC Villa, the ones who are versatile. Mike Azira also had more or less the same problem.
Dennis
Guma also.
But
the
modern player in world football, there's so many players who actually have that problem. We've seen, the versatility, the ability to play different positions.
Yes,
Daily Blind
yes,
today.
but back to Kabura's question.
Okay. I was just giving an example.
Back to Kabura's.
Is that a sign of bad thing?
You could clearly see he looked like a fish out of water during this match.
Oh, wow.
I
know you can play around with English words. I think part of it is rough. Right?
No.
A lot of it is rough today.
Max Ali, I think you remember that unconventional block that he had in first half.
Yeah, I remember.
Which was effective.
The one where he sat on the ball.
Where he sat on the ball. It really looked, it wasn't soft on the eye. And then obviously the penalty incident where he sticks out his hand. Typical of someone who is not accustomed to playing as a centre.
Was there enough time to get that hand out of the way?
You see, the traditional centre halves usually go for those challenges when they are sticking.
But I'll tell you, I give more credit to Buana Samata than faulting our players.
Exactly.
I mean, there was a flip over the Kanzo, as we call it.
Awani.
Over Awani in the
He
run
took
into
me
that.
back to Zidane days.
I think Buana Samata was doing some great things against us, by the way. It was against Uganda. I shouldn't have loved them, but I thought I was enjoying myself.
Here's an interesting one, guys. We are going to continue with those players in the starting 11, but I want us to quickly first cross over to Dar es Salaam, where our panelist Asha Komugisha was for the game itself. And part of the social media reaction has been about the match-fixing scandals. It has also been about the reaction down in Tanzania. Because think about it, 39 years before the Taifa Stars were at Africa's biggest footballing stage, plus a thing or two to do with the human resource in the starting 11. So here is Asha Komugisha giving us her thoughts about some allegations and the game itself. Asha.
Thank you very much, Andrew Kabura. Yesterday was a Black Sunday for the Ugandan football fans following that 3-0 defeat to Tanzania, who were the better team on the day. Of course, there's a lot of backlash on social media talking about, the match fixing, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think that's true because the boys gave everything. But Tanzania were the better team on the day. Tactically, you could see that Tanzania also wanted this from an inspiration point of view. And as Ugandans, we should be able to remember this because in 2016, while we played Comoros, that's how we approached that game. We wanted the qualification. It had been over 3 decades since Uganda was at the AFCON, and that is the exact same feeling for Tanzania and the Taifa Stars. So, of course, look at the way they played, the goals that were scored. You have to give it up to them. But also the absence of Hassan Waswa, who was suspended in that central defense, and Murshid Juko and Khalid Aucho. If you've watched the Uganda Cranes, you see that they play from the back and going to the front, and that was a little bit of a problem with Ntambi, who was making his debut for the Uganda Cranes. Also the partnership, a new partnership with Timothy Awani. But of course, these are lessons that Sebastian Desabre has gotten from here and that he will use in the preparations for the AFCON that will take place in Egypt. But mostly, I would also like to say that kudos to the Uganda Cranes for qualifying, for being one of 4 teams in East Africa.
Thank you very much, Asha Komugisha, down in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I don't know why you recorded that piece in a dark corner. Maybe because the Uganda Cranes had lost and most of the Uganda Cranes fans didn't want to be seen around, specifically recording. So Asha had to go behind the dressing room.
She was hiding, right?
Yeah, to quickly send us this one. But thank you very much, Asha. Still to starting 11, and you can quickly send us those thoughts. Who would you have started in the Uganda Cranes team? Or what do you make of Uganda's performance down in Tanzania? Was it down to the players? Was it a tactical issue? Or should we sit back and just accept that Tanzania, on the day, were simply a better side? Mark, Sebastian Desabre is you now. Could have you started anything different?
No, I'll tell you this again, which is why I cut the team some slack and I cut the coach some slack, which is why I've not reacted the same way as many people from what it sounds like. Is that I would not have faulted him if he didn't have a single starter from the previous games in this particular game. Because I said it before the game. It's not like I'm saying it in retrospect. I said here that I loved how bold he was in the away game in Maseru against Lesotho, when he made some changes from the team that had played against Lesotho in Nambole. And I thought that there was quite some excitement generated by people like Alan Katerega, Dancing Rasta. which is why, and I said it here, and I said I was even disappointed he was not on the squad this time, because I'd just seen him play for Marisburg against Mamelodi Sundowns. So actually, personally, if he'd changed the entire team, I was going to go up in arms. Especially because I'd have liked to see some of this now, and it would not have been out of sync with the rest of the football world. I have seen international coaches. I mean, I can give 1,000 examples of them changing their team in dead rubbers, including some that people will remember. I have seen it even at club level in Champions League games when teams have qualified, and the last game people are getting a run out because they have a league game. They're resting for.
So we should take the loss then?
Like no, I'm not saying that. But changes, if a coach is not going to make some changes and do some experimentation again like this after it's qualified, wouldn't you expect it?
So here's
when are we supposed to expect it?
Here's an interesting one.
I am not.
Can I just?
Yeah, but I also want to ask you. I've seen some reaction.
So if it played Khalid Lualira, for example, who's a natural centre back, more of a natural centre back than Christensen Tam, I wouldn't have had a problem.
Madoy, there's reaction on social media now. Of course, football fans, some of them are saying Sebastian Desabre actually doesn't come up against very serious opposition. They're saying this was the serious opposition he came up against, and he lost. And now they're starting to doubt our chances in Egypt.
Serious was Cape Verde. Serious was Lesotho when we needed to qualify. Serious was Cape Verde, Lesotho.
I think by the
not a dead rubber in Dar.
Mark, please.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think Tanzania is an almighty team by any stretch of imagination.
Neither is Cranes.
Neither is Cranes, but at least Cranes who have been building this reputation of ours over time. But the points tally speaks for itself. Tanzania, 8 points out of a possible 18. That I think tells the story. But my bone of contention with Seb Desabre is that the Cranes have failed to get an identity, and that's the problem. Because Mark talks about the chopping and changing, which happens quite a bit. The reason why most of these coaches do that chopping and changing during these dead rubbers is that they have managed to imprint an identity on these respective teams, so that they can pluck out a player and another will come because that player knows that this is how this coach wants me to play.
It's hard for him. He's come here on the show before and said the quality of facilities in this country, the turf at Nambo, they cannot allow his players to pass the ball. So he's going to change his philosophy. It's down to your facilities as a nation.
Well, I don't know about that. The fact that because if he's asked to have a camp in Egypt where there are these world-class facilities, and he's going to go and imprint, these philosophies and ideas that he has, he should have no excuse. I think he should, by the way, come out and tell us exactly what went wrong.
Mangusha, should we be focusing on what went wrong? Because did anything actually go wrong? Or it was just it was just a football game that we lost?
That's still under some serious contention. No wonder the president was quick to actually set the record clear here. But I think the coach made some changes to the team, bring in 4 starters that didn't start the game in Kampala. So in itself, that was it. But also, the issue I have with Desabre is one of the things that drove Uganda was keeping the clean sheet record. Now, inside 21 minutes, you've lost the clean sheet. Why not bring on Salim Jamal for the rest of the game? I mean, the clean sheet is gone. Nothing more to fight for, nothing more for Nyango to prove. 2, Alan Chambade. Like most players, none actually had a good game. Why let him play 90 minutes, yet Alan Okello could come in and have a run as well? We are talking about experiencing and having these kids go on and show. Alan Okello has played some of the biggest games on the continent with KCCA. So why not give him a run, 15 minutes? We've always called Moses Opondo. Some of the players, Opondo, you remember the Mike Azera issue with Mitch as well. You call these guys all the way from where they're playing their club football, and you have them just on the bench. And when you play them out of position. So clearly at times we don't even take advantage of our strength with the players that we have. So again, Farouk Me also didn't. Anyway, I'm struggling to see who had a game. But I'll be honest with you, Alan Okello should have come on at least and done something. There's no reason why Onyango played 90 minutes after losing the clean sheet.
again, like which has been the case today. Even if I'm disagreeing with you guys on some things, I'm agreeing on several things because I think you're both on fire, for starters.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, what I agree with you on is on a few more players. Rather than the people who wanted the first 11, I'm agreeing more with more changes. What I agree with him, that a few more players should have got a run out. And what I agree with Robert Madoy is the most important thing.
The system
was about who we are and how do we play, and that is the one thing we're going to question this Sabre. When he first came, there was excitement because he said we came from a team. He had built a club side that was passing beautifully, moving the ball quickly in transition and moving it on the floor, and passing short, passing quick, playing some beautiful stuff and scoring some nice goals. And he promised that to introduce that here. And when he first started out, there were flashes here where you thought, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So when people were saying he hadn't won a competitive ball game, I was saying, wait a minute, give him time. Besides, after all, they are not costing us anything. Those first games that he didn't win,
Tanzania,
remember, that is what I want, and I've been consistent about that for over the last 15, 20 years on television shows, where I want coaches to actually create an identity, where I want for us to have a philosophy. I would never mind us losing 3-0 in a game we didn't have to win or even draw in, as long as actually we played well. I didn't think we did.
Yeah.
Our build-up was too slow. We did not look like the attacking side I would like for us to go out and be at the Nations Cup. And also, because I'd said it here earlier, is that because it was so important for us to win certain games and qualify, that we got KG, that we had two left backs playing on the left flank. When it wasn't Ochaya with Walusimbi, Muleme was introduced.
Yeah.
That we had two pivots, when I thought we should have one in a home game, so we could have at least one more attacking midfielder or creator, and we had those options. So, and I kept saying these things throughout the campaign. I wanted to see those things. I want to see those things. I want us to be a quicker team going forward. I want us to be a more creative team going forward. I want us to be a team that scores more, and I'd like to see that. So, if there was any disappointment for me in it wasn't the scoreline.
Yeah.
It was how we played. And I would have loved for us to play better and to threaten that goal. To threaten that Tanzanian goal and say, you know what, they're hitting us on the break and scoring because they want it more, but we are attacking them. I didn't see it at any one point. I don't remember.
2 months the Africa Cup of Nations now. Mwangusha, we can't read too much into this result, or we shall go to the Nations Cup with probably the worst attitude. I mean, we still have 2 months, but I mean,
there's something about the Cranes over the years. They tend to show up when you least expect them. And on a real match day, you remember, if you followed friendlies between Uganda and the other countries, friendlies normally there's nothing to suggest actually Uganda is a team. But when the match day arrives, something happens. Now, of course, everything that happens in Egypt, it doesn't matter which coach is in charge, will be judged against Gabon 2017. So anything beyond leaving the group, perhaps score more goals. Yes, we scored a goal, drew in Gabon with Mali, but this time around, anything will be judged against that. So Sebastian Desabre, good enough, like he took the camp to Ismailia, and we look forward, because that's the place you want Uganda to be based after the draws are done on April 12th. So we look forward to seeing really what he can do. He'll be home because he coached there, but again, it comes down now to the likes of, now I get to understand, for example, when he was cautious with Murshid Juko and Khalid Aucho, because if they had got booked, they would have missed the opening match, and now the most difficult match of any tournament is the opening match.
There you go. This debate about the Uganda Cranes, especially when they lose matches, can go on for the whole night. Because you know what, as Ugandans, we get very emotional and always want to see our Cranes winning their matches. But let's look at it from a regional perspective. Fantastic news for the East African region. You've got Burundi that have also qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time in their history. Like I said, Tanzania, close to 4 decades for them. Kenya is traveling to the Africa Cup of Nations as well. And is the increment to 24 nations at an AFCON good for African football? Because some of the critics are saying it's the reason now you have Mauritania, Madagascar also qualifying for the Africa Cup of Nations. Now, I don't think that's a fair assessment, but when we come back, we shall pick your mind on that. Quickly send us those talks. The hashtag is NTV Press Box tonight. Plus, when we come back, we shall talk about the pools and who actually Uganda could face at the Africa Cup of Nations when we get back.